Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey My Mother's Son podcast. Today, I'm joined with fellow Y2V volunteers, Mike and Ginny Walsh. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited to talk with you.
Absolutely. So we originally met when we popped in for a day in Vancleave, Mississippi. You guys were on that project for the full 2 weeks. We happened to be passing by, and Shar said, if you have some time, come on up here and help us out. And that's when we found out you guys were going to be with us in Roan Mountain, where, Jeff and Susan made sure that we were introduced before we started the project, but really didn't get to know each other until this Roan Mountain, Tennessee project, which was a Y2V2 project, which is a much smaller project than normal. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about, you guys are not full-time RVers, but yet instead of taking your RV out and going on vacation, at times you decide to take your RV out and go out and work really, really hard for a couple weeks. So, tell me a little bit about what the inspiration is as to why you want to go out and volunteer in these projects.
I guess I'll take that one. Well, it all started, if you would have talked to us probably 10 years ago, what was our plans when we retire? And we would have told you, well, our plan was to, after we retire, was to take the RV and go volunteer at the national parks. And when we looked into it as we got closer to retirement, I realized that the national parks really want you for a whole season. And that was something that we were not able to do. Both of us at the time when we retired, we had elderly parents. I had a father who's since passed, and Mike still has his two parents. Mom is 93, dad is 95. And we are kind of their primary, go-to contact caregivers, if you want to say. And so we knew that being away for a whole season would not be possible. And we really have always enjoyed giving. Maybe it's because of our careers, our background. Both of us, we're in different careers that were very, very much, I don't know the right word, but, service oriented maybe is a better word. Mike was a firefighter, so he's retired, and I was a school teacher and an elementary school librarian. So both of us were really used to that, and we knew that in retirement we wanted something to still continue to serve. We are also very connected with our church, and we have served a lot in different projects and organizations through that. But we wanted to find a way of combining serving and traveling with the RV. And so we were very disappointed when we realized that the national parks was just not going to be an option. And then I stumbled across, like many people, a YouTube video of another RVing couple, and they introduced us to, Y2V. And that's kind of where it went. And I'm rambling on, so I'll let Mike take a shot at this.
No problem.
She pretty much nailed it. Both our backgrounds were both Air Force brats. We both were very service-oriented careers. And one of the things that I enjoyed so much about my career was the ability to possibly and did make a difference in people's lives on a daily basis every time I went to work. And that I found that to be very rewarding. So to me, and that's the way I was raised too, was my parents were very much givers, and they were being military. The point is that I didn't want to retire and just sit down and do nothing. Mm-hmm. I like the rewarding feeling of serving other people and being able to not only serve other people, but to meet this wonderful group of friends that we've made through Y2V. Dan, we still have folks that we met 2 years ago, year ago, that will come into San Antonio and stop in, and we'll go out to have dinner together. So it's a twofold thing. Not only do we get to serve, but we are making some lifelong friends, and it's just a absolutely wonderful feeling to be able to give back and combine our love of travel and seeing this beautiful country that we're so blessed to live in.
Yeah, I agree. I think for Sandy and I, that's a big component as well, is, you know, we both were very involved in volunteering before we started out on this full-time journey that we're on. And, you know, to have an outlet, and then just like you said, Mike, to be able to combine that, you know, giving back itch, so to speak, with meeting all of these incredible people that we've been able to meet at these projects is really special. And the project that we just finished up in Roan Mountain was actually a Y2V2 project, which, you know, for our listeners, is for seasoned Y2Vers. You have to have done at least 2 projects, because Phil and Shar are not the contact, you know, coordinator of a Y2V2 project. So they want experienced volunteers who kind of know the methods of what we're trying to do, and you know, how we want to do it. So it was a much smaller group than normal. And if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was your first Y2V2 project as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, we started out with 10 volunteers. One of them was only there for a little under a week, and then it was 9 of us for the rest of the way. And I think we were able to really get to know each other on even a higher level than a normal, you know, 30-person project that Y2V puts together. I mean, we had lunches together and dinners together, and, you know, it was just much more intimate, I think. So, you know, with this being our first and your first Y2V2 project, what was your takeaway from the smaller group?
I loved it. You nailed it. It was the fact that we were able to really get to know each other. I mean, on the Y2V projects, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've got to know a lot of people there, but maybe not as close, just because the sheer numbers. I liked it. What about you, Mike?
I really found it to be challenging, and it felt like the same amount of work was given to us as the larger groups. But as far as the friendships, the camaraderie, the working together, the getting to really know the people that you were with in the smaller group was fantastic. As a matter of fact, just this was our 4th project, and just because of the small number of people and getting to know each and every one of them so much better than other ones, this has got to be one of my favorites. I feel so much closer to the folks that we had the honor to work with. You and your wife, Susan and Jeff, you know, Karen and John, and of course Orrin and Susan. Oh my goodness, I feel like I've made some lifelong friends, and they've gotten to know me and my warped sense of humor or weird sense of humor. But I loved it. I really found it very rewarding. I'm exhausted, but I tell you what, I have never had so much fun while being tired.
I agree. I 100% agree. And it was a really special group of people. You know, if we had to work a little bit longer, or, you know, start a little bit earlier on any given day, you know, we were all there. You guys were battling some challenges with the rig. You had a couple little snafus with the rig. And, you know, it's neat when we're on one of these projects and something like that happens, and everybody's trying to help and pitch in a little bit. I know when we were in Lake Charles, we got there and we had to replace our water pump, and, you know, we had Orrin happened to have a spare water pump, and two other guys jumped in and showed me how to change it. I mean, I tell people all the time I'm the least handy full-time RVer in the world, so it was nice to be able to actually do it myself with the guidance of some other guys making sure I didn't bust a water pipe or something like that. So I think that's one of the other things that if something does go wrong, there's always people who can kind of help and pitch in as much as possible. Now you had a couple issues where it was above the pay grade of all of the volunteers, but nonetheless, you got through it, and everything worked out, which was good. Of the of the 4 different projects that you guys have done, I mean, what are some of the kind of special moments, whether you want to talk about in each project, or things that kind of stick out in your mind of the different projects? Because I think the other thing that's really cool about Y2V is everything's unique. There's no 2 projects that are the same. So there's always little components that kind of stick with you. What are some of those for you guys? You can decide who answers first.
Well, for me, we've gone from the Okefenokee Swamp in Stephen C. Foster in Georgia, where that was a absolute myriad of different projects, yes, from carpentry to road work to painting to AC installation, all kinds of things like that. And I just found that fascinating, because every time I've worked on one of these projects, I've had like a mentor that I've attached myself to and have learned so much. Follow-up projects were in David Crockett Birthplace, where we built this gigantic stage. Yeah. The only thing that was done by the time we got there was the pillars. The piers had been set. And this thing was like 258 feet by some ungodly number. I can't remember the width. But by the time we finished it, it was exactly squared. I was very proud of that. And then we went to Vancleave and did something with trail blazing, which I had never done before. And I've worked in wild land type situations because of my career, but not actually marking out a trail and clearing it and making it passable. And then this one, it's got to be the flume that we worked on. I have never in my life. At first, I saw it and I thought, "There's no way I'm going to be able to help on this." And thank goodness we had Phil and Shar made sure that Orrin was with us, because he is such a wealth of information and thoroughly enjoy. What a fine gentleman and a knowledgeable contractor. But that one to me is going to be the special one, just because of it was so unusual. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Oh gosh, every project was special in different ways, and the first one, of course, is always kind of, we were talking about this, I think, with the group, that your first project usually is a little special just because it's your first, and it's, so when we did Stephen C. Foster, it was our first time being introduced to it all. And just, we had another couple that kind of took us under their wings, and again, the mentor type of thing that we were getting from other experienced people, and just the variety of projects we did. I mean, just things I would have never, filling potholes with asphalt is something I just never would have thought I would have done. But just so many different things that we've done, and things that I never thought of. I have a new appreciation now when I look at a park. Yeah. And I walk a trail, especially after we did the Vancleave one and the one in Mississippi, when we did trail works basically for 2 weeks, I would say. And I have a whole appreciation now when I see a trail. It's like the work that it takes to clear a trail. You just don't realize, when you see a big thicket that you have to, put a trail through, it's the little things like you got to clear an area to put all the brush that you're cutting, just all different things, and removal of stumps and stuff. So they all have different aspects and different things that I've enjoyed, the people and the park itself. When we were at Stephen no, yeah, Stephen C. Foster. It is one of those national dark sky ones. Is that what they call it? Where you could go out at night and the stars were just
It's incredible.
unbelievable. And I've said before is that one of the nice pluses of the many benefits of doing these things is you go to parks that maybe you wouldn't have normally done.
Right.
Stephen C. Foster was way off the beaten path that I think in prior years, if we had been over around that area, we would have said, that's too far off the path. Let's just go on to another, place. But now I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I had that opportunity to go there because I wouldn't have, because it is such a remote location. So,
Just to add on to something that she said, Dan, I think the most memorable thing for each and every one of these trips, the thing that I'm most thankful for is a couple of things. One, I'm very grateful to Shar and Phil Roos for putting together this organization, because that's enabled us to do what we wanted to do, travel
yes.
and to volunteer our time. But secondly, and even more importantly, Phil and Shar, thank you so much for bringing us not only into your projects, but to be able to meet these fantastic people. I am just in awe of every person that I have met on every one of these trips. I love them all so much. They are a part of my life now. And we get to, like I said, when they're coming through our home town of San Antonio, Texas, there's always a place for them. Everybody's not afraid to reach out and keep in contact. Truly, lifelong friendships are made. And then in addition to the people that we meet, the people that we serve, to see some of the rangers or some of the townsfolk, with the Tyrion and I, because you've made a difference for them, whether it be their job or something that has to do with their hometown. That is reward in it itself enough. So to me, it's all about the people, Dan.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think when, like you said, Mike, when you see, these rangers come out, like, Marcy Ann was a perfect example of the farmstead, just how truly emotionally touched she was for us to come in there and, do the flume and, cutting down, tree branches and putting the garden fence up and all that stuff. And she's like, it just allows her more time to be able to focus on the programs for the public, which is what she's, really there to do, to be able to educate with those interpretive programs and everything. So completely understand that. And, interesting, whenever everyone I've talked to that I've done a podcast with through Y2V, I mean, obviously Phil and Shar come up, and really about how they make it so easy for us. Like you guys were talking about, the original goal for you is to volunteer with national parks, and the time commitment really does become somewhat cumbersome. But then, there's other volunteer opportunities where, just kind of getting on the list is like, almost an act of God to, the steps you got to take. So I think the fact that, one of the things Y2V has going for them is just how easy it is. You send an email, you have a desire to help, and you're gonna get in the rotation, so to speak. From your experience in looking into National Park Service and that sort of stuff, and then the Y2V sign up experience. I mean, talk a little bit about how easy that was and kind of how grateful you were to that it was such an easy process.
Yeah, it really was. It was so easy. I mean, and they tell you, if you see any project that you think you would like to join, go ahead and sign up, even if you later on have to cancel. In fact, we unfortunately did have to cancel one project. We were originally scheduled for the Arizona project, but we had some things that we were doing at our house, since we're not full timers. So our sticks and bricks house was going through some changes. And so we had to cancel, but they always have a waiting list. So I felt guilty at first, but then I found out somebody else was just telling us at this last project that they weren't originally scheduled for it, but they got in because of cancellation. I realized it was probably our cancellation. But so it is pretty easy. And I think one nice thing that they started instituting, I think this last year or so, is making sure that a project, with the except we're talking about the regular Y2V projects, not the Y2V2, like what we just did. But on the regular projects, they started instituting where they mix up having newbies and past people. And I think that's good, because that way it gives a good blend of experienced people and new ones, because a lot of times, like when you talk about the national parks and all this stuff, it's always the same people that once they get their spots in there and their foot into those places, those organizations, it's kind of hard for anybody else to get into it. Does that make sense?
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the fact that Shar and Phil started realizing, hey, we're going to have to find a way of trying to create opportunities for new people. So by creating having the projects having a mixture. So in other words, they won't let a whole project, a regular project, be filled up by veterans. But they created these other projects, like what we just did, that was just strictly veterans. So there's opportunities out there. And if anybody's ever interested in a project, if you even remotely think you would want to do it, go ahead and sign up. Because and Shar and Phil say that, sign up, because there's always a waiting list. So if at the last, if you need to back out, you find out a couple weeks before the project, you got to back out. Don't worry, don't feel bad. Just, they've got people that will readily jump in and fill the spots. But they do go fast. So grab them while you can.
I think the one of the things that I'd like to point out is that not only is it easy to sign up for Y2V, but I think everybody that I know that's in the RV world, and whether you're full-time or part-time, we always talk about the people that are in those RVs, how gracious and kind and loving, and everybody is willing to help each other out. We talked about our little issues with our rig. And to me, Phil and Shar are the two that epitomize that camaraderie. They're the ones that kind of stoke the fires for our groups, whether it's the full group or whether it's the smaller groups, the Y2V2. I just think that they're an outstanding example of what it is to be an RVer. And quite frankly, that's the whole reason that we continue to participate. It's not only about giving, but it's who you're going to be with. If you know you're going to be with somebody that's going to be fun and that has the same core values that you do, you want to be around folks like that. And I am so grateful for their organization, and so grateful that they have allowed us to be able to participate in these projects. I mean, what a wonderful goal to volunteer in each of our 50 states and to give back, because a lot of these projects that maybe not everything that we do on the project, but a lot of them are legacy projects, something that's going to last for a very long time. And I just think that's so wonderful to be a part of this organization. Again, it's all about the people.
Yeah. And if anybody's worried about, I don't have the skills or I don't have the tools and stuff, you really don't need to. I mean, a lot of people, might have those tools and they'll bring them. But if you don't have them, it's okay, because usually there's always plenty between the parks and the other volunteers that, everybody can help each other out on it. And I just want to encourage people not to feel like they don't have anything to contribute, because you do.
Yep. And one of the things is, if you've got a good attitude and you want to get out there and help people, this is a great way to do it. Yes. And if you want to make new friends and possibly some lifelong friends, another great way to do it. Y2V.
Yeah, I agree. I want to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier, where you guys spoke about how it was kind of in your upbringing to
Mhm.
to give back. And I think everyone I've spoken to, and myself included, I mean, my parents, both gave back in their own unique ways. Um, so what was it, about that upbringing that instilled those values of giving back to you? Was it going and doing things with your parents, or just seeing them do stuff? I mean, what was it that really instilled it in you?
I think in my case, it was a combination of both. My father was also in the Air Force, and it was a career Air Force chaplain. And uh, after he retired, he served in congregations, mostly in Colorado. But it was one of those things that, we were always uh, encouraged to participate in anything that was out there and things that were done on the base. There was lots of different programs that I remember going and helping with. Um, and my parents also, it was opening their house up to anybody. I remember when we were stationed overseas and Japan and later on in Germany, that there were times when there would be somebody who didn't have a place to go or stay or whatever, and it was always opening up our house. And so it was just kind of a my parents led by example. They family is everybody. They always wanted to include anybody that needed it. um, and so I just have so many different memories of different people that maybe lived with us for a short period of time or sometimes longer. Um, and just we served in all sorts of things. I remember not just singing, and we were Lutheran, not just singing in the Lutheran ones, but we would be singing in the Catholic masses. And I remember attending, Jewish Passovers and stuff because my dad and mom were doing those things and so they would include us. And so I just feel like they kind of set the example for us. I don't know about you, Mike.
I mean, Dad was always a great military, Air Force. He was a World War II veteran, a Korean War veteran, and a Vietnam veteran. He is still sharp as a tack. He's very giving of his time up until he got, to be at a point where he can't move around so much. Always quick with a friendly word. My mom served on, I can't remember how many
Yes.
nonprofit organization boards because she felt that giving back to the community was so important. And a matter of fact, she even helped create a nonprofit organization for my fire department that I work for. And that was when you see that in action, and I mean, it's constant, Dan, you can't help but become that way. We were so blessed in the fact that the parents that we have are absolutely wonderful. And it's unfortunate that I don't have my mother-in-law and father-in-law here, but have always told people that if I could have picked my own mother and father-in-law, that I couldn't have done any better than what I have. So those are my 4 examples of what led me to do this.
I love that. And as you were talking, Jenny, it reminded me of my mom, because she was that same way, where she was always, opening up the doors. My brother was in the Army for 4 years, and whenever he would come home on leave, rarely did he come home by himself. He was always bringing another, 3 or 4, GIs with him. And my mom loved having those guys come in and visit and feed them. I mean, she knew what it was like, for those guys to get a good home cooked meal. And by the end of the weekend, however long they were there, everybody was calling her mom, and that was that's one of the things she loved doing, was just feeding those guys and making them feel at home, and giving them a good meal and a warm bed. And the same thing with Thanksgivings. We would have so many people at our house for Thanksgiving that we did not know that that she would find out that somebody didn't have somewhere to go for Thanksgiving and invite them over. And my brother and I would joke sometimes that we would call it the Thanksgiving for wayward souls. But ironically, my brother met his wife of 35 plus years now at one of those Thanksgivings for wayward souls, because her and her mom didn't have their dad had just passed away, and her and her mom didn't really have a spot to go for Thanksgiving, and she invited them over there, and lo and behold, my wife met my brother met his future wife at that Thanksgiving. So it's it hit home when you talked about letting people in. So I love that, and I think it's so important for parents to live that example for their children. I've talked about it now in a couple of my recent podcasts, where in Lake Charles there were two families that were there helping. One that had two young boys and another that had a young boy, and I commented so many times about how important that was to have those kids out there and helping and seeing what it's like to give back. And I think we're all examples of that when you see that as a young person, as you become an adult, it's just natural that you want to get involved in a nonprofit. You want to go volunteer. You want to do something that's bigger than yourself, so to speak. So any parents out there listening, take heed to that. Get your kid away from the video game, and get them out there to a soup kitchen or pick up trash or whatever the case is, and it will make a huge impression on that young person. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
So is there any thoughts for you guys in the future actually going full time, or are you content with the sticks and bricks and out for a couple weeks or a couple months at a time, doing your thing?
I think we're going to continue to stay with doing a part-time, just again, because I'm still blessed with having both my mother and father here and back in San Antonio, and I intend to be there for them as much as we possibly can to help out in whatever way. And after in the future, we'll make a decision whether or not we want to do that. We love the traveling, but we also like going home.
Yes.
And I can't imagine how some of these full timers, having to juggle doctor's appointments and all that. We're starting to learn it, but it seems like it's a little bit more of a heartache than or a hassle. Not so much a hassle. I guess once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. But the answer to your question is, right now, no. In the foreseeable future, probably not. But after 10 years or so, I can't answer that. It's all in the hands of the Lord. So we'll see what happens.
I could see us maybe going not full time, but maybe going longer.
Yes.
Than we have been. We've been going out maybe 3 to 4 weeks at a time, and then we go back home. But I could see in the future us staying out maybe a couple months or more. But I'm like with Mike, I just don't see us selling the house and saying that this is our full-time thing, because we have some wonderful friends and we love our church. And like I think I said before, is we do different things with our church. And so I think it would be hard for us to lose that community. I think we're blessed right now to be able to have both the RVing community and our community at home. And so I think for right now that's probably the way it's going to stay.
Yeah. And that is very fortunate to be able to have both those communities to go back and forth with. So that's awesome. So anything that we didn't talk about that you guys want to chat about before I get to my final question?
Not that I can recall, Dad.
All right.
No, can't think of anything.
All right. So as you guys know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a song, Gloria, by Michael Franti, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things, then the whole world changes. So I'll start with Ginny first. Ginny, what's one of the little things that you do on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place?
Mike is over here giving me teasing looks. I guess my thing right now is I'm really working on my prayer. I know that doesn't sound like much to some people, but to me, prayer is very important. And I have right now several people that are battling different illnesses. And so to me, praying for them, and I reach out and talk to them. And if you've got somebody who is struggling with something, maybe physical or mental, sometimes it's awkward. You don't know what to say to them, but just calling and just saying hi and just checking in and a friendly little thing. If you don't have to talk about their illness if they don't want to, but you can just, something funny happens. Oh, my dog did this the other day. Just trying to give that normalcy that sometimes that some people aren't feeling. So to me, that's my that's probably what I've been really working on this last year, is trying to reach out to friends and family that might be suffering. And I've so just when somebody's thought, when I think of somebody in my head, I call them. And it's just, and I tell them, I said, there was no real purpose. I just was thinking about you. I want to let you know. And I've had a few people have told me that's like, your timing was perfect. I really needed that. So it may not seem much, but that's kind of what my commitment has kind of been.
I love that. And that's the whole point of the question, is it may not seem like much, but I guarantee you, to those people that are getting that phone call or that text message, it means the world to them. So that's really the entire point of that question. You proved the point. So Mike, what's the one of the little things that you do on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place?
Well, there's actually two things I try to do. One is, in my own head, I wake up every morning and I'm in prayer, and I just thank God for all the blessings that He's given us. I'm so blessed. But secondly, I always try to pay it forward. I've had several people that were very influential in my life, not only my parents, but other folks that were in the fire service that made a very lasting impression on me as far as how they treated other people. So anytime that I see an opportunity to make an impact, whether it be a nice word or something funny to someone that looks like they're having a bad day, to maybe picking up a lunch for somebody that needs something that because they're hungry. I'm always looking for opportunities to pay it forward, and I firmly believe that that's the way that we all ought to live our lives, because I've been so blessed. I give glory all to God that He's enabled me to do that. Because of His blessings, maybe I can be a blessing to somebody else, and that's what I try to do, is to be a blessing to somebody else.
Absolutely. I love that. Love that answer. Love both those answers. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. I feel blessed that we were able to get to know each other in that small group. And I will guarantee you guys, the next time we get through San Antonio, hopefully you're in town and not out on a project somewhere, and we can get together, because that is the connections like we talked about. I mean, that's so important to Sandy and I, and to be able to show up in a random place and have friends there is pretty awesome. It's it's one of the things that keeps us going on a daily basis, for sure. So looking forward to that time without a doubt. And I appreciate you guys taking the time out. It didn't work out to do it at the project, but thanks to technology, we could get together and do this virtually. And I think it was a very powerful conversation without a doubt. So folks out there listening, be sure to check out my blogs and other podcasts, danclouser.com, and be sure to pick up my books at amazon.com. Mike, Ginny, again, thank you very much for taking the time and joining me today.
God bless you and
Thank you.
Sandy. All right, take care of yourselves.
All
We
right,
look forward to
thanks.
seeing you in the future.
Absolutely.
All right.